Cout expression or manipulator. Basically, here what we're doing is we want to format our output. In order to do that, we need the IOMIN preprocessor directive. The IOMIN IP preprocessor directive. Some of the things that we can do is we can use fixed, which fixes the decimal formats to its defaults of 6 decimal places. We can use show point, which shows the decimal point and trailing zeros. We can use set precision, which controls the outflow of floating point numbers. Okay, and we can also set width in terms of having data in columns like so. An example, I/O operations with fail state and manipulators, most important manipulators. Here we got I/O stream, and of course now we have IOMAN IP. I may have included that in earlier examples, but now we definitely need it. Using namespace standard int main, same scenario here. Okay. However, in this scenario, we added a twist. We said here, if Harry is less than 0 or Harry is greater than 0, and you don't need to fully understand this now, meaning we expect this average to be somewhere between 0 and 100. All right. If it's not, then we're going to do cin clear and cin ignore, if you remember this, because the user entered in something weird. Okay. Please enter in Harry's numbers again carefully, and then it's going to go into here. Cout Harry's midterm average in defense against dark art is. If Harry is below 70, Harry again needs magic. Okay, remember this, HP1, HP2, cin ignore, 100, new line, HP3, and this time we're going to cout fixed show point set precision. In other words, we're going to make sure that we have a decimal point set to 2 places. Harry equals just like before. Cout Harry's new average is Harry. So in this case, we can enter in 60, 60, and 60, like we did before. As you can see here, it tells us to do the same thing again. So this time we can enter in 60, just like before, 60, 60 again, enter, 100. Don't forget, we're going to ignore it. And now this time, rather than it being 73.333 with 4 threes, there's just now 2 threes because we use these manipulators here, fixed show point and set precision. Cin cout and strings. We've been talking about using the input stream variables cin and cout, and now we're going to talk about using it with strings. If you recall, we talked about strings a little bit previously. In order to use strings, we've got to have our preprocessor directive pound include string. Okay, and one of the functions that we're going to talk about is get line. All right, this allows you to read in blanks as well as data. So if you actually had, so So here's my name. If you didn't use the getLine function and you used a string and you did it this way, what would happen is you would only read Jerry and you wouldn't include the space. If you use getLine, you'll get Jerry and then my last name with the space. Let's look at an example. So now, rather than just having IOstring and IOmit, we also have string, and pound including string using namespace standard, int main. You've seen this code before. And now this time, if Harry is less than 70, all right, I went ahead and just cleared out everything here just in case. I had some I went ahead and cleared out everything here before we started. And then we're going to go to string my chant, name of the string. See out Harry needs magic and your help. Enter in the following chant, Expecto Patronum 100. So you can actually enter that in, and it's going to do a get line cn my chant. Okay, here's your iStream variable, your input stream variable, and here is your string variable, which is right here. So this entire thing would then go into it. See out, now enter in his failing grades again, press return, enter in 100, and press return again. Just like before, HP1, HP2, ignore the third one, enter in the third one. Remember our manipulators. See out, my chant, my chant, my chant. Here's new midterm average, and the defense against dark art is, so let's go ahead and run this. All right, so let's go ahead and enter 60, 60, and 60. So the average is 60. Harry needs magic and your help. Enter in the following chant, Expecto Patronum 100. Enter in his failing grades again, 60, 60, 60. Press return. Enter in 100 and press return. Expecto Patronum 100, Expecto Patronum 100, Expecto Patronum 100. Harry's new midterm average in the defense against the dark arts is 73.33 because we entered in a 100 to average in a 60 and a 60. Okay, so the get line here gets this entire line, Expecto Patronum 100, which is a string. And then everything else was a repeat from before. Well, except I C-outed the my chant a couple of times. And include fstream. Now, so far what we've been doing is we've been inputting and then outputting information, inputting via keyboard standard and outputting via standard monitor. In practicality, a lot of times what we want to do is we want to have an input file, have some magic happen here, okay, with our program, and then spew it out to an output file. Because the data could be numerous in terms of inputting and outputting. Okay, you can't expect someone to perhaps look at a monitor all the time. You want the output to be to a particular file that you can share with people. So fstream is our preprocessor directive. The two data types with fstream are ifstream and offstream stream. Ifstream is our input file stream. Off stream is our output file stream. There is a 5-step process when we want to use input and output with files. All right. The first is to include our header file, #include fstream. The second is to declare our file stream variable, whether it's going to be associated with ifstream or elfstream. The third is to associate the file stream variable with the I/O services or sources The fourth is to use the file stream variable with our extractor or insertion operators or other I/O functions. And then the fifth is to simply close the files. Let's look at an example of I/O file operations. So here we have #include IO stream, IOMAN IP string, and now we have fstream. Using name standard int main, same thing all the way up until here. So in here we have of stream, which is our output file stream data type, so to say, and then out file, which is our output file stream variable of this particular off stream data type. We're then going to use that variable outfile.open harrygrades.txt. This will open the output file, or create it if you don't already have it. Cout Harry needs magic and your help. Enter in the following chant. Like before, we enter in expecto patronum 100. Cout grades, just like before. Fix show point set precision, just like before. Outfile.close, outfile, okay, the file stream variable dot function close will close the file. So here we run this 60 60 60. Harry needs magic. Expecto patronum 100. Enter in his fill and grades again. And this time, none of the information is on the screen, but we can find it here at harrygrades.txt, and it's located in your IO operations file. Okay, when you create your information, here's your .sln, this background here, and it is defaulted into this folder here. All right, this was the name of the project. And this would have been the exact same thing that we saw on the screen, but this time we wanted it to go to a file instead. So obviously this is simple, but imagine if you had a lot of different data on here. This would be very beneficial. And the reverse is true. We wanted to input, but I only just provide an example for output. If you want to go somewhere else, you simply get familiar with your system operations, your operating system, and enter in the file path. All right, to sum it up, again, we want to use input-output operations because we want to have the ability to take a file, all right, enter it into our program, and then output it to another file. Because it's not always practical, again, to use a standard input keyboard and standard output monitor. All right, when we want to input-output, obviously one of the preprocessor directors that we need is IOStream. All right, with IOStream, we have the two data types already defined for us, iStream, OStream, okay, along with our two stream variables, input and output, that already have been declared for us, so we don't need to declare them. It's best that we don't. And so to actually put it in use here, we have the input stream variable cin, okay, allowing us to input our simple data type, whether or not it's one variable entered in or two variables entered in, that's up to us, or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc., etc. All right. Remember, by doing it this way, C++ does skip white spaces. There will be times when we need to use functions, and when we use functions, we use dot notation in order to express those functions, at least when we're using simple data types here. Okay. We have get, ignore, and then if we run into a failed state meaning the data that was inputted is incorrect because we had some sort of mismatch of data. So all future data is basically going to be incorrect, and our data is going to thus be unexpected results because we're going to be calculating incorrect data. We want to clear and ignore, basically zap out the bad stuff that was entered in, and be sure everything else is zapped out as well. We also want to manipulate our data so that it is at a precision that we want it to be. Again, we can use strings, and we want to use this function here, getLine, because getLine allows us to work around white spaces. And then we have fstream here because, again, our standard input keyboard and our standard output screen isn't always going to be ideal. Sometimes we want an actual input file and an output file depending upon the circumstances. And if so, we're going to use and need the fstream preprocessor directive with the ifstream and ostream data types, where we can declare these data types with a particular stream variable, such as output file, if you remember from the example that we used, to actually push it out to here where we saw Harry's results on those 3 exams. That is it for I/O operations.